So one of the topics that I've been really focusing on these days is the profitability of Tesla, the margin discussion, right? Because of the debate amongst the Tesla Twitter community about volume versus margins. Many stock investors, Tesla stock investors, were complaining about the margin being compressed, pricing cuts. But then, of course, Tesla's been talking a lot about, especially the last Investors Day, they spent 4 hours talking about every department's relentless focus on cutting costs down. And so I wanted to just talk to you about this, understand where you think all the different ways that Tesla is going to be able to reduce margin, the cost of producing the car. So why don't we start with first, like volume versus margin? Very curious where you landed on that debate.
Yeah, I mean, I think Tesla will have room to take out costs uh, forever, but with diminishing returns. I think Model Y is probably getting to a point where the best way to take costs uh, the best way to take costs out is by scaling the lines and just cranking out as many cars as humanly possible and increasing margins through scale plus software. Model 3 has room from a cost perspective, just straight up. Again, that Fremont line for Model 3 is a disaster. So getting that fixed is great. Redoing it in Shanghai is great. So you'll definitely take costs out there, but scale will also help. So depending on how many more units they want to crank through that, it's going to help them a lot. But I think for the foreseeable future, I think Tesla has gotten to a point, and this is a really fascinating question. Tesla has gotten to a point, I believe, where they've become quite good at building cars. They've become quite good at building cars. So their generation one production line and their generation one processes over time for the new product lines will have less costs that you can take out because they're reaching they're getting closer and closer to the perfect production line. They'll never hit it, but it's kind of like a log curve almost, right? Like, or like an exponential curve that's going the other way. It's your efficiency around taking out costs is going to get worse over time because you've just done such a good job to start with. So Cybertruck will probably be because it's the first of its kind. There'll probably be costs that they'll be able to take out over time for sure for Cybertruck. But the compact car, as an example, they'll make improvements over time, but they'll have a pretty good step change from Model Y, Model 3 to this compact car. But because the cost of that car is already going to be probably half of the Model 3 and the Y, the dollars you can yank out of there is not going to be as large as, say, the Model S production line, right? So there you could yank out probably tens of thousands of dollars of cost over time. So it used to be a taking out cost equation, and now it's turning into a scale equation, I believe. Have you asked Corey or Sandy this question? Because I think that they could probably give you the best answer on this.
Yeah. So Corey asked the same question, and most people I've been asking agree with the volume strategy.
Yeah.
You've got two factories; they're at 50% scale right now. They need to get them to at least 80%. Corey's answer was that if you run a business, the first thing you want to do is scale it to reduce all your costs and maximum scale. And so
Sure.
this for me, it was a no-brainer. As a long-term investor in Tesla, I'm 100% happy that they cut the prices of the car, uh, sacrificing margin, but they had to. I keep saying to folks, come on, remember that a year ago when we were all at the grand opening of Giga Texas and Giga Berlin a month before, they were just open. And so would you rather them stop those factories, therefore reduce volume so that you can maintain high margins and sell those cars? Or do you want to just keep pumping out as many cars as you can because you can reduce your cost as you keep doing it with the volume?
Wait, there's people on the former camp where they want them to stop the volume?
They don't say it that way. What they say is, I really don't like the strategy that Tesla's doing by cutting price. They should keep the price high so that the margins are high, because they're getting hammered with the stock because of the forward-looking margin compression.
That makes no sense.
And I'm like, why they advertise instead of cut price of the car? And I'm like, well,
So
they need to
subsidize the volume
increase.
through advertising is what they're saying.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm saying increase the volume, build. You can't make that stop. Just build as many you can. And then in order to sell, there's going to be demand issues. And because we're in a macro, I'm not one of those people that is saying that there is no demand issue. There is in a macro. It kind of it changes like that on a daily basis. And so for me, it's like build as much as you can. If you build too much, you need to cut the price of the car. I'm okay because the price cut will make and it's already showing it today that it increased the sales of the cars of Tesla. They're dominating everywhere. They'll make it up in FSD volume in the future. Anyways, so for me, that was where I was, and it sounds like you were in favor of the price cuts as well.
Yeah, I mean, price cuts make perfect sense. The Tesla's long-term goal is to advance the avenue of sustainable transport. You don't get again, it's like you can't get there with expensive cars. Now, the advertising equation is an interesting one because, I've long been on the camp of the advertising is not in the DNA of Tesla because Tesla's core mission is to get the cost as low as humanly possible. And that's why Elon was shocked yesterday when the majority of investors in that room were like, "Oh, wow, you're going to start advertising. Hell yeah, let's celebrate it." You can see it in his face. I mean, he said it himself. I'm surprised. That's proof that it's not part of the DNA of the company. The company is not trying to sell you a car by telling you to buy it. They're trying to sell you a car because of the merits of the product, and it's so much better than everything else that you have no choice but to buy it. It's an undeniable product. So, I feel like the folks that we might have our cake and eat it too in a way, right? We might get the volume and we might get the margins.
Well,
now that Tesla's willing to try advertising.
Yeah, my answer
we'll
to that was that the ultimate goal of Tesla at this point, and they should relentlessly get here, is get the price of an EV Tesla cars to be equivalent or cheaper than a nice car. And it doesn't matter if they were selling this like crazy and they can have huge margins and there was unlimited demand. They should still get it to be below the ICE car once and for all. Kill the ICE cars, make it happen. Once you've now there, and we're almost there. We're really there, as you've pointed out in many of your analysis. We're pretty well there already. And then once you're there, go ahead and advertise. Go ahead and do all that stuff. But you don't keep the price high in order to have high margins, in order to be a profitable company. It is already very, very profitable, by the way. That's the other thing that I laugh at. You're pissed off that it went from 20% auto gross margin to 18% auto gross margin. I mean, damn.
Well, it went from like 29 to 18 in the span of a year and a half, right? But again, a lot of it is macro. Yeah.
Yes, because I've been pointing those. I feel like I'm repeating myself. But in 2018, when Model 3 came out, when 2020, the Model Y came out, they came out at a price point, and then they had a margin because it was a brand new factory, brand new line. And then COVID hit, supply chain hit, cost of goods went up, and then the demand for these cars went up. And so Tesla raised prices like crazy. And so then we were all very, just lucky that we were able to, greedy, seeing 30% gross margins. Now they brought it back down and everybody's pissed off, but it's the same price as it was at that times that they first launched. So if that did not happen, if COVID did not happen, we would be at the same price point we are today, if not cheaper than what it is today. So it's not like it was this weird, it's ridiculous to talk about a 30% gross margin. A 20% gross margin is great compared to the 7.5% that other auto manufacturers are doing. Anyways, I
slightly disagree. I disagree. I think under the right macro environments and with a certain level of awareness from the population that are maybe now considering a Tesla where they wouldn't have, I think 30% margin is very much should be realistic. I think, especially with Cybertruck,
I think it's going to happen
as a higher.
That's what
with Cybertruck out. Yeah.
And also, this is what we're talking about. This is the topic, right? Let's go through the list of things that's going to happen. So first of all, they showed a slide showing the Model 3. They were able to reduce its cost by 30% from 2018 to 2022. This is before the scaling of the factories. This is before all the new innovations that they were able to do with Model Y. And so now they're going to be able to do the unboxing process, and over time that will add to cost reduction. The long-term supply chain partnerships that they keep striking. The one most recent was with Samsung deal. These things, at this point, every president, CEO of every company is dying to be a partner with Tesla because they can guarantee 2 million, 4 million car sales per year and almost guarantee that that's going to happen versus would you pick any other car manufacturer and
Right.
hope that they're going to get to 100,000, 200,000 sales? So all the best long-term, contracts will go to Tesla. And then they're building down the batteries, like you said, the lithium refinery, and they're trying to secure that up as well. So all of these things. And then the big one was, the big news yesterday was Alexandra asked the question, tell us what margin you're expecting if FSD works. And you got the software as a service and all these other things packed in. And he's at 80%. That is awesome. That is what I needed to hear because basically that's the goal, right? The goal is to have high margins. Like you said, you're going to have the best of both worlds. You're going to be able to sell in volume, but have high significant margins, just like Apple. That's what they're doing. And the more that, now that Apple has kind of like can't grow the volume anymore, but they can keep growing their margins because they're going to keep growing their software as a service, their entertainment and all that, the packages you're buying. And that's where this is going. This is exactly where it's headed. And we're at the early stages. So the people who are concerned about the margins being compressed and that he's willing to bring it down to zero to sell, that was just a statement that he made in case I was pushed to the wall. I'm going to sell. I'm going to sell as many volume. He said it. And so that's exactly what I expect them to do. And then the more you sell, the more you're able to increase your margin. It's like temporarily reduced today.
It's not even the more you sell, it's the market share that you can take away from other people that will be selling a transportation solution during the same time. The margin equation within that context is irrelevant. If you look at Tesla and how they perform versus the rest of the auto market in Q1, the reason why it's going to be the best selling car globally, the Model Y in the entire world with zero advertising, is because they have the right combination of feature set and price and awareness that where people are willing to buy the car. And what that means is that more people are buying Tesla versus everybody else. And so if that means their margins are going down, I have news for you. Everyone else's margins are also going to go down and their scale is also going to go down. So it's a reflection of macro, and it's not a reflection of Tesla's ability to sell cars, to your point. It's a reflection of macro. Now, the super interesting piece around the 80% number that he threw out there. So we can do some very simple math to figure out how Tesla is thinking about revenues, right, for cars. So if he's saying, let me just clarify this with you, just make sure you and I heard the same thing. He said 80% on the car business, correct? He said 80% margins on the car business, right? He didn't say 80% margin on FSD. He said that the car will go from about 20% to 80%, right? Okay. Super simple math. Check this out. So let's assume that Tesla's average cost to build a car in the next couple years, don't know if it's right or wrong, but let's just say it's $40,000. Let's say it's $35,000. The cost on the average car is $35,000. Okay. So if you are to make 80% margin on a car that costs $35,000, you take 35,000, you divide it by 0.2. And that tells you the revenue, right? So that's 170. So they expect to make $175,000 of revenue on their average car sold if their cars cost around $35,000 to manufacture, right? But that's what Tesla makes. So that's the revenue share number is the next thing we need to figure out, right? Is it 50-50? Is it 70-30? I'm guessing this number is probably 50-50 if I were to guess. And so that implies that the owner of the car is probably making upwards of, I don't know, over $100,000, well over $100,000 on one transportation unit. But then we also need to know the time scale, right? There's a lot of moving pieces there. But that number is very important because we can actually sit down and model. We can sit down and model and say, this is how Tesla's thinking about it. This is the number they threw out there. Even if it's 60%, at least we kind of understand the range of where it's at. And it backs up what Tesla has been trying to do from a strategy perspective, which is long-term doing SaaS margins, right? So software as a service, which Elon on the thing was like, what is SAS? And Alexander should have said SaaS, SaaS, instead of saying SAS. It's okay, Alexandra. I
Mhm.
still love you. But yeah, it's fascinating to watch now. Now we have actual numbers. Now we have a real thing that we can go after. And then on top of that, Elon's like the majority of the business long term is going to be bot. There might be a 1-to-1 bot to human ratio long term, and where are we going? What's happening here? Seems like the world is transforming, right? It really does seem like the world is transforming right before our eyes, but it will take time. It will take time. And it's just really exciting to see Tesla at the forefront of this whole thing.